Mame fa say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de osia dem yopo.
Justice Atuguba wono no ye judge panimua. Wose wo minor ye Supreme Court. Ye judicial system no. The independence of the judicial system eniho. Na ye suspect say eniho. Ne mo mpanimfo se bomochichie firi nsuo ase beka kire wo se wodan kyem awu a yenye ne chenenye
freedom.
Kwa we obia ni onim the judicial system ne change Justice Atuguba. Senior men at the bench and senior men at the bar. There is a difference between the bench and the bar. Lawyers are at the bar. Judges are at the bench. Now why lawyer ni mapa for so many years standing. And waba be a judge of not just a year magistrate court. And we a friend inferior court. Okay, inferior court and judges now hold money in Yukula. It's a lower court, no. Na higher court, high court, a year court of appeal, and a year judy. One way about be senior most. And was say judiciary independence. Judiciary no say ye take a decision. Ye timbe catch them say oh mummy nyina yanko hai. Enyamra make Justice Atuguba na eka. But ye movie away near brofo res adjudicata de ben na ye de na jachi kwesi na ye de. But what Justice Atuguba said is very damning. The judges are supposed to be independent minded.
Freedom.
The judges are supposed to take decisions without anybody influencing their decision making.
Exactly.
But Justice Atuguba say timbe ka kire mu say munyina mun call this site. And this is very serious. Sa na Ghana for bebre no abusa say 2013 election petition. Justice Atuguba wadaruma eno no obi hwipi obi in line say munyina no mun call this side na. Ye abusa we menka sa na tie. Ni abusa. Justice Atuguba say NMC petition no. Supreme Court enyane wrong. Now he was at the bench, but he wasn't part of the.
Very serious. Very serious.
But you see, this nation, we come from a nation that we have a history of this in your way. History of this in your way. We call law school a bachelor of Ray Akoto. We call law school a bachelor of Salah versus Attorney General. Sanyoma way ne see ya ma ye constitution for frono. We informed the making of the constitution, taking into account these kind of things.
Freedom.
Edi Justice Atuguba say ye court no. It make us say wo munyina te say confirm say hey munyina muni say ala mu we friend confirm theory. Guinea fowl theory. Aye. Munyina mu medim na me hu bida. Just we are judge near. You should be independent minded. Exactly. We are judge near, and nobody should influence your decision making.
Exactly.
But Justice Atuguba is saying that it is capable that they will be taught, they will be whipped in line.
Freedom.
And the judiciary is not discussing this.
Exactly.
The media is not discussing this. Ghana Bar Association is not discussing this.
Exactly.
So when American yam frame to the body, I'm saying, Monsieur, we are Miankasa bad man, me are Hayan Mayano.
Freedom.
Mon cano correct.
Sapepepe.
Adiana Justice Atuguba can a very serious matter.
Very damning.
Very serious matter. So was see your judiciary. Hey, judiciary is what judiciary when near true, when near giant, judiciary when peer, when you bomb. All the judiciary has is the trust of the people.
Exactly.
Now, the very moment the people's trust in the judiciary begins to wane, then you know the society is heading towards a doom.
Freedom.
Society amount for a judicial system ni no. If say aban yamani to me, aban betimi you to me no, e de asisi manfo. Your society and crofo eya akesefo wo mu a ombetimi ayusu o makese no whether by or musika whether by or status in life e de asisi eya dodo no a your society a chese dodo na be pese wo mu be take advantage of the masses.
Exactly.
Therefore, womunim say take advantage of the masses. Womunim say abai sisi nipa. Womunim say obi try so obi bully obia. Where they will get a hope, the judiciary. Baby, a womo kwa wombetimi anya omasem ni aka mo womu free and fair. Now, if it gets to a point where the people see the judiciary as judiciary independent, as a judiciary won't need a mind of their own, as judiciary will be to me who omu in line, this is very serious.
Freedom.
Wow. And the judiciary is not, the media is not discussed. And one was say media no is not interested. Ye interested. Jachikwe say na, na jachikwe adi media wama bo wamu nshia adi wamu nkai media impeteshi media for washodia no pa waba wibia waba kwakunti na na osi dia na ho yankwai sa anom tie sa na kwakunti pe so yem shoyi na so wo bodam.
Anu abo mechia
na ne ba abosi okan abosi sana mba na kakwa kuti peso wo yem shoyi na msem bibi gijewo agogumboa sesa na no ye used to eja ye kwetena se ne wibi mpetehye no a ade abeche kwakunya wanya wa wo de onwibi na meka wo mo adi animu no journalist fo de adi animu no edi ade adi justice Atuguba kan no kro ntie and watie kura no the angle to take it from wonim. But this is very serious. A lawyer for nyina yedi o. Ghana Bar Association yedi. Yesi judiciary de nya papa. Yesi judiciary no ye hwepi omu in la nyame na make justice Atuguba na eka. Nyame na make. Me echo what justice Atuguba has said already.
Exactly.
And a society that the people do not have a trust in the judiciary, that is the beginning of the demise of that society.
Exactly.
That is the beginning of the demise of that society. Obinka se puduonshi o. Na nsume hunu de wadua menkenu akwakotwa bode da na society na ye building, and you see that is why some of us we get so disappointed in Nana Akufo-Addo, because we thought under his leadership things were going to get different.
Sure.
The judiciary is not independent.
Exactly.
Politicians are taking over the judiciary.
Cool.
And they kura wo hwa guy law school no passage nkrofo efiri mu ba yes wutimi afi wani hwe ni say ya no ahunu say hey NDC for so aya hwe nkrofo eba MPP for so aya hwe nkrofo eba di asemuni.
Cool.
The judiciary is not independent.
Exactly.
Eje betimi atra oman mu sa. Ye betimi atra oman mu say ya ye wo bia ye di o ahemfuni nyina ye di Council of State nana mechia nana otrozo bo wada ma mechia nana justice Atuguba say judiciary ni nye independent o na ye ndai.
Personal independence relates to the commitment of individual judges to the judicial values that ensure their impartiality and fairness. I'm here referring to values such as eschewing corruption and not allowing ethnic and other particularistic considerations to affect judicial determination.
Not allow ethnic. Tienyo. And there. Tribal considerations. Say just that Atuguba movie away from the fact that was a political class in influence the judiciary. Or person will come here who say even tribe. Say obi tribe okura timi ma case better than anymore. Would dear some no echoes
serious. But Nana Esi bisa say why now?
Other na fin kasa. Enu na enra meti baby ti kwata na obi busa say dwoma ma asam no wo kan ye no enu na justice Atuguba hu say there is a backlash from the society nti eja wono de your authority over it nti wono be kan na emia Muhammad ye no so ana sa na nkofo busa sana na nkrofo bisa ana no mu bisa se den na solide ayi wo hwe room na no ote no a NDC fo nko ana na egu ho ana mu bisa se TV ne kura na ekọ capture wezo yi ayi se NDC ayi spokesperson eti na manfo na me kire manfo ne se eno de enkahwe eno de enkahwe time wo de ka asem no ene ba bia wo ka no se ye NDC fo nko ana na egu dem ho say NDC for na share da koye lecture no political science no mfre Justice Atuguba se be kambi na ya fa media joma amaka ye no ana se nyesa ende enkahwe gwagunti enkahwe Ghana for mu penkomo aye se ne dodo asem no awaka no na mu ye hwe ne enka ho asem
exactly
na say no ye na ade no o hwe se de na Benjamin Asuma asi apolishing anim ti wo no na wo hwe se de Wezo TV for a shine wo mu TV na nim wo mu de capture na o hwe se we sa de ma we nyina mfa so bi ani so ya se sa Atuguba asem no aka na serious ye hwe ba hunu bibi bra ba ka bibi Subekabi Angel 102.9 Angel TV way fresh MTN number 0240 0240 343513 and 0594 4954 0594 4954 MTN number 0240 43 343513 Brana so bra beka bi omo frɛ wo ho ere no mbɛfrɛ wo ho dai for mo na ka omo hyem ye wani o
ye
wani se ba na ebozu
ko ye santi kotoko
wani se ba ya nante
ya fio se te santero no kuma pembe ba na petu se bi akire asante mo ye ko ba ye gare wa piao ka chori bibi ka chori me sim no me ko in national headquarters e che do bi o kenso won tie ke se chief bifa won pie binya onyame shawati wa pete atuma no alfai asidama doctor kokote santero shie na jali na minya be kwe Obaya, who got to my papa, a stranger, one of the figuring you, mean, Tia Fiferia, when sorry.
Yeah,
and
I said, I was you.
And I for sale, and it was on. Luca, I think that's a short chow, Eric and Tori. You know, only Nana, or therefore, Roma.
Catch it up in mirror.
Yeah, no can say, and Atuguba Namati, you know, Atuguba.
Justice Atuguba.
Justice Atuguba. Can you be on again? You know what you can all the country Ghana for a Gromuno and I want to walk ever parking. So, when you say, oh, probably Ghana for, and now what to a year quality and the sunset some ever. The best share and the diameter bring the time out of constitution and I'm going to do it because I wouldn't even now about what to show. And now you want to do for safety sentiment. Now, I'm not ideally. That's what you're going to say. Okay, who can flow? One can go. You won't go inside. You know, I can see the portfolio. And I couldn't say, on my me, I did, on my me. And the problem is the never come on the or put the gear. One the course also the king.
Oh, brother, dear, or one recourse to the dear pa, a dish about neighbors who were crying, son of the crow, Miss Wobianwa, will say, when new media, a college, a check. Now, my minion, you man, so many lawyer ni, a yet lawyer Kwame Addo for our Benny woman, and when him, lawyer Kwaba.
You know,
now, I don't know what to say.
Uni ahoye na ozwe.
A lawyer, a diayeni, diaya na ye.
Ebi, right.
Ye na anope memusa wo minim se wo bench ayi ba ho ache na se judiciary no e wo no enhyada nye independent sa ho
Minimo. Eja.
Ye Justice Atuguba na no so wono agya wa 19 mu abunu mu a wakobunu ni mu wono na asori abase judiciary ni mre bi kura atwam wo mo ye ka so wo mra the majority side wa menti ye sideline wo bench ho na no kura no wono no ye second in command say ban say the senior most at the bench no no enso edu baby ni ye yi no because of decision a wo mu take here one take bi enti ana ye chese wo chese politicians kura timi people in line na ye kura tribal considerations when making decisions when wunim so wudi agro who wunim there
Okatakyie ma menchia na menchia tiefo
Joso
eni be bia wa afidie koduru bia menchia obia
bia Joso
look my main say judiciary, you know, they are not above critical look. You can't say, we are not above it because we are individuals and we are doing together. Na, o mind the two of them, and the engineer or home coin, say, say, quite almost to the moon of Quantas, and answer much that here. But here, Justice Atuguba, na or express your own opinion. And utia no could you one justice be on support reflections on the bench. And we could do extensively. Na we are entitled so better than na I am in one kakra if it's Justice Atuguba some more kind of you have would you know why I'm not adding so better. For example, okay, that's a question or describe as what
for res judicata dear
you sue where to be me now. Essentially, he's saying that the articulations case was decided wrongly. You didn't want to say. Before the articulation, na case biaba na ehia se be hia in chichimu constitution in chichimu na we say Ghana has emra no say you perceive in chichimu constitution mu a Supreme Court ne deko na Arabia wo kogina wo Kole Clotte constituency and the Exanato Rolling.
JJ Rolling Sebanwa.
That's right. Okujina yeno. Yeto abanukwa manu wie you know be the court say. No one yet registered voter. Just one qualifies to be dinner. Emma Assembly call Supreme Court. Now Assembly call Supreme Court. Panel at not Justice Atuguba kind of say no can. Almost reasoning and also almost holding in that case, and then say, almost time to decide, no criteria, no time electoral commission, a BBA nomination. That is what the Supreme Court told us. Almost time I had council a time Supreme electoral commission because the BBA nomination into the Monfa will be a nomination form. Now, what I will say. How is that similar to the articulating case? The articulating case in the I'm out for the court. Now, a Sakopi Supreme Court, Supreme Court can say, President at the whole say, time ye de country your time electoral commission, a be in nomination.
And we know Supreme Court no a di articulating asemono. Womo share de Justice Atuguba mo bench no eteki ye no decision womo take ye no womo take ye no into consideration and womo de decide womo decision on Justice question
omo follow yi say no no de di Justice question there
o man depart from the decision
they followed it say Justice Atuguba say Atuguba any year. And then I just say, is it what person admit to say?
Or no decision no take it.
Does it now say it's wrong? Or no decision in a Senator Rollins, which was followed in Atuguba's case. They say our Baba because Atuguba was wrong. Is he saying that he also got it wrong in the Senator Rollins case? This is sad because it lacks consistency. What's not bench pain? Now watching me sound reasoning. Deal with and the party. No more accept say that decision was correct. No more follow. I've heard it was a sad decision no more follow and no more. Hey.
So I say asem ni ye die wie ni asa kwotena so na eni kwasa asem a ye die wie wo say high court no ye sa tena supreme court e kan bibi fufuro bi afa ho
agentire and what but the court supreme court no strictly supreme court interpret law no and the supreme court ka say time ye de calculating ye die wo justice Atuguba time na wo sit bench no so a case of a Senator Rollins that time no ye de be adwuma. Eti ayemengwa say obi a we distinguished judge wakọ ahomdie mu waba hontin no waba kasa asemi na the star how many say star unanimous FC on our statement also can be
okay be
which is areho sem because what bench you know say star language was a street language and it was coined by this guy, former DC for Aframpin, Church Aframpin. We never cried no studio. He was saying in joke. As a group cried no did or kind. Now, all justice to our Bible follow. Sad language. So to me,
we're giving legitimacy to a yes answer when they say Ampeni Ampa Supreme Court no unanimous FC.
Now I said it's a banner. What only judgment will be unanimous. Judgment will be our no Justice Atuguba. He was the lead writer. It was unanimous. And so nobody tagged them, nobody gave them a name. And they're fine. Especially what's not bench open. Of course, we are entitled to expressing opinion. But where there? No, with a not.
Why you will raise concerns about tribal considerations and other. Now you could do court one. Nipa ni di kura to me determine say ye na asem na bekosi ya na bekosi ho.
When you say, who share interview ni ya? Obusa na critical question you say I'm coming. No, yes, baby. Answer questions. No, we don't pass to pass now. So, really, it should be. Not say, say, is this justified? But I'm coming. Then he will go on and on and after the question, no, the referee, he doesn't answer most of the question. Look, he knows what he's saying. That's what the bench knows. I say, but what you presume because the bench knows.
Yeah, actually, be anyone.
Every hour, the tribal in an area, and he has to explain. Now, certainly, he cannot say so on the bench is different from now. Because the same people, more, but traditionally, is subtle tie and none at the home. And this is a Atuguba piece, and I apologize for being on the bench. I went to me when he was there.
Na mrano enye Justice Atuguba na mum tradition bi wo ho say ye say Ghana case lo bi a ye bi die Supreme Court dia abeye mra enti wono ne mra na wodi ye no eno an ye follow na ne wo se enye na esunsun swanso emma wo man no eye die ya.
Well, the hard green say obi to say Justice Atuguba watna Supreme Court ben no ba it means that he's giving some credence to the notion that and being paid at them. And then the hard thing, because once the citizens lose confidence in the justice system, it's dangerous because we've been in a case on Fanko. what the basa that instant justice, mob killings near them. A man who lose confidence in the justice system. Yeah, but I don't know. And to me, no, people like him should be careful. They should be very, very careful, especially at the judiciary. He himself was serving on it. Harding.
Ghana ye history ye free moba say mrebi eja ye mo lawyer for the mukesi a da bia de ano mo se ria koto na no ekodu ho ye di asem ni wie ye se ye hwa asem no kura se di esi di no a anko amankrofo bi sesala case anko am eti ye constitutions afoforo no a ye take into considerations the history of our nation na ye they are correcting a certain wrong. Now this is a case where enye obia keke, but Justice Atuguba and making these claims. What do you think the reformations should be as a lawyer, just so we won't get to a point where the people will think that judiciary in one independent too, instead of using the law to decide cases, there are other considerations they use to decide cases.
Look, when you say. And so be her just as we were kind of Yakrano, a beamini, I'm a baby. What can be said? Attorney General is part of the Judicial Council. President has 4 nominees on the Judicial Council. Yeah, I want to say, Obertana bench for over 30 years. He never did anything about it. He never recommended that he be changed. He never made any statement anywhere. So why now? And on a hard thing. Of course, constitution the but one he is a product of it. No one would draft it on that time. Just the 2 was of age. Contributing. So this is their part of their legacy, and we are all suffering from it. And he cannot absolve himself from any blame because he went to the Supreme Court in 1992. Mini asata na okrado di fi.
Na bomfa na me dware kwa ho. Na me dware kwa ho.
Enti omo nyina o matena mu from 1992 over 30 years. Afa no who said there's something wrong with it. Come on. At the beginning now I make a recommendation for it to be changed. Afa wo bench area. Wonya 70+ years na wo fie kakra bi aka no. Afa na wo hu say dey cause no. Time opportunity ne buy no. They ought to have done it. It is what you anya there. Ube say oba bi di bema bi di oba bi akojira ai autumn no ba ye ho ade ozo a obi bi ka no ka or forever shut up wa nka wi ni bana wara wi afi na be ka se won kra no e meri
enra impetition ba bi am kotena ya me pon school yes bo se ba kote no se Justice Atuguba jo mama asem ya obeka ye ya no no nso obeso obeka before so ye kasi authority nam se hey akola nkasa sa akola bia ni weka oka no am se ya afu akwa ne se hwehwe ibi enkofo na na etete won ya ndisi fo nkwa we no se yi sa do tre peta kote yi e de ne yanka kire no
every day between I can say moon consider me GDO the justice system. You see, Okatakyie, you will find laws. Na ni partner a silly positions to use those laws. Idea, bro. I just found people to be in certain places. As a Samo, Mudipo Abakofan OSP or to Papa.
Lawyer ni mapa Jabe
Muni Panama Governor was to Papa.
Kisia Jabe asem na kai.
You were fine laws, but the guy is just goofing every day. What is the Papa? The same thing.
A whole Kisia Jabe. Anna lawyer.
Oh, Mata, go pay you. You want to Papa as a group oh, football. Oh, ball, Nayasawa, what's my team ball? Let me move you. Me pay referee, no. The same thing way. One of the super party. And really a problem we will have fire laws. We just don't have the people to fill. So
maybe me hapa. Kisia Jabe na juma ne nso ani wo ho.
Minia. Na wa de yakosi wo hu se na ni nso na juma nso ani. Over 2 years, one so ati adoma akora for prison.
Oh, sir, you say no, wo ye adwuma thoroughly. Said the beya
Father Tumuda. That was just what I say. You know, I interview about him several times. Then the guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's a material one on social media, so I call FBI. FBI may
no, so what ye covert and covert operations to unravel.
Master paid you oh, see the part time, any sika, and all shit. Wow, what could see the man is Esika? Court to say, a Omra, the edgeman said 7 days for court. Bank court, ye bravo. How could freeze it account? You say 14 days for court. One court, ye bravo. Was the judge, you know, Emperor Master in the view. What a lot of crap. No actual petition is in view. When I'm describing, say, silly. Oh, as you want what in them, and warriors the moon, and as was one of FBI. Absolutely, nothing yet. And you got in there now, they want to.
And I know one a year, Kwamsi Fakaye interviewer, now watching the experiences, watching the achievement as a lawyer. And I'm a one year GDS said, what was he, not just a wabini woman, and him. I said, you will see a castle one castle idiot.
Master, I said, I got it from. What could you invest if you want a fine qualification? It's would do, filled in the squad, and the veteran, we too. About 2 years, they went with me. I go bend what you get.
Yes, you can washing war.
Master, who are fine certificate that's going to be prosecuted this simple case. I must say, or who's in the case this you know, actual letter say, you have you judge if you want. They are a whole state prosecutor in the name of the state. Judge also is employed by the state. We can crack you are all on one side. Could we complain? I think I'm a complain. Or actual letters you judge if you want. The Chief Justice leave a judge in Waka because Nina so be any Nina so
Jumana wouldn't even know
Master,
yes,
yes, it's a wound to was a
vacation. Your body by was a cashier Ubana de Bodia Habine as a fam and Yario.
Master. Missy, a crowd to cry, you to cry, near far, and to man and a bucket, you couldn't only be a body and yet.
Nobody Habine, I don't know. So, no, we Bunisan, what bunker, Munaza, what the bucket, now I want Bob, but then I are too soon as a bunch of
Udim, I want to open excuse. What was it? It's your probity channel. It's you open judge in the channel.
Now we lose like I said, judge and what?
Maybe said the best young papa in the office. You see, can I say? Or she is sick.
Young Pamuk is Jabe.
Oh, Charlie. The guy doesn't know what he's doing. Mom Papa no cry and put people. We need the oil.
Let come out of Pepe Tribunum na Yamen Castle. Yeah, lawyer ni mapa lawyer Kwame Adofo ane ye no atwetwe nkomo no na meko UK ye 140 million judgment debt no a ya yesi no a ye ton ye nyoma UK no mo hwese mbanya UK high commission se de na ye de high atro mo se na commission teto hwere ma me mo friend WhatsApp mo friend na ama ni phone nti UK by this time they are about 9:31 wo office mo friend no Monfrano Yen Ninkomo. Ye are Monco energy minister, why former energy minister no cosa deal, Monfrano Sumame, the Ninkomo. I mean, you may be in free hotel na yan sorry so. Dr. Kwabena Donko, a former energy minister. Na Yanan Becambrofo. Doc, welcome to Angel 102.9 FM and Angel TV.
Thank you.
Doc, how are you doing this morning?
Doing well by the grace of God.
Ordinarily, we would have spoken to you, but for the purposes of interpretation and explanation, then you requested that we speak English. So we resort to that. Now, very quick one. We woke up to the news of a judgment debt that has been brought before Ghana. That is about $140 million, which has resorted to the selling of properties of Ghana in UK. Now, there has been a linkage of that story to your former office. Briefly, what is the linkage there?
Excuse me, let me correct this impression. There has not been a sale of any property yet.
Right.
A property has been attached that is different from a sale. A property has been attached.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, delving into the substantive matter, what is the linkage between this judgment debt that we are talking about as a Ghanaian people and that of your former office?
I think on the subject of the judgment debt, the best people to speak on that will be the Minister of Finance and the Attorney General. They handle that, so they will be the best people to speak on that. I can only speak of the termination of the Ghana Power Generation Company's contract, and the contract which was negotiated by a team led by myself as the then Minister for Power. That I can speak on. But in terms of the judgment that is not within my remit.
That's okay, sir. So we want to understand what entailed in the contract between the government of Ghana, which you said you led it, and that of Trafigura. What did it entail, please?
Okay, let me again be very specific. The contract was not between government of Ghana and Trafigura. The contract was between the government of Ghana, represented by the then Ministry of Power, and Ghana Power Generating Company, a subsidiary of Trafigura. So that I just want to be technically accurate. This was one of the emergency power agreements we signed. It was brought to Parliament and approved in July 2015. It was for a 4-year duration. That is, the tenure was 4 years. And they were to bring on board 107 megawatts of power. The unique thing about this particular agreement was that of all the emergency power agreements we brought on board to resolve the issues of load shedding, this was the cheapest in terms of tariff. The capital recovery cost was 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Again, it had the shortest tenure of 4 years. Again, this was the only contract that did not require a Ghana government guarantee or a pool call option. So in terms of the terms, this was probably the best we could negotiate at that time under emergency. I just thought that should be clear.
So what could have led to the abrogation of that contract, to the best of your knowledge?
Well, the letter I cited and which I raised issues with in the 7th Parliament, signed by Honorable Bwachajakun, purportedly terminating the contract, indicated that, among other things, the company had not received all the necessary permits to start construction, including energy commission permit. At that time, I held a press conference and said we were terminating the contract on very, very weak grounds. Because in the main contract, one of the obligations of the government of Ghana was to assist the company obtain all the necessary permits. And it's not just with this company, all the power agreements. There's an obligation on the government of Ghana as a party to the contract to assist the entity in obtaining all the necessary permits. And therefore, it goes ipso facto that if there was that obligation, we then cannot turn around and use the non-existence of the permits as a condition to terminate. And that was one of the reasons, one of the issues I raised. And the second issue was that inherent in that contract, inbuilt into that contract, like all other contracts in the power sector, there is a termination process. There's a termination clause. So the contract will always envisage a possibility of termination. And so there is a process you follow to terminate the contract. That was not also followed.
But was the acquisition of these permits part of the explicit terms of the contract? That is to say, were they part of the integral terms of the contract for which, when it is in breach, you can terminate it? Was it part of it?
Well, yes. In every country or in our jurisdiction, you cannot just go construct without a work permit, without Energy Commission permit as a regulator, and among others, an environmental protection agent permit. For any construction project, you need those permits. Those are conditions precedent. However, there was an obligation on the part of government of Ghana to assist them to obtain those permits. And the government of Ghana was also obliged to assist them to procure a site for the plant.
So in this case, these were condition precedent. If from the layman's point of view, these were conditions that ought to have been met before the contract was signed.
No.
Go ahead. We listen to you.
No, before the power plant starts operating, not before the contract was signed, because these are terms contained in the signed contract. That these are the things you need to do before the power plant can start operating. That is the difference.
What was the agreeable between the two parties, the forum that in the event where this matter does not go in the way that the contractual agreement agrees on, you will resolve the matter? Was it agreed in the contract?
Yes. So in all such contracts, there's always an arbitration clause. When there's a dispute, the dispute will have to be settled by arbitration. And let me make this clear. This arbitration took place in 2021, and the government of Ghana was found to be at fault. And so an award was made. Then the government of Ghana agreed and negotiated to pay by installment. And that also we defaulted. And that was what led to the other party going to court in UK, because the arbitration was an international arbitration terms in London. The panel was in London.
On hindsight, what do you think we could have done different to be able to avert this payment of judgment debt?
I personally think we were power consumed. We thought we had all the political power, and so we could do anything, and so we paid and regard to terms of contracts. And this is not the only one. Let's be very clear that in an international contract, there's always a process, and we should be extremely careful as a nation to respect processes and contracts. That we have not done. Because internally we've gotten away with murder. We terminate contracts, do things because we have the power. But when it comes to international contracts, they will always respect the process. Unfortunately, the reasons we advanced for termination were seen not to be sufficiently good reasons. And indeed, let's remember that in 2017, some of us raised the issues when we saw where we were going. Look, assuming that admitted that we didn't need that extra plant at that time, we could have asked them to delay the implementation. We did that to the Jacobson plant. We did that to the Amandi plant. You stagger when they should come online. So we could have asked them to do that.
I was about asking you the benefit of that agreement we had, because for some time now it has been abrogated, but it looks like we still have a stable power. And for that matter, what was the need? What warranted the agency in which we had that agreement with the other party?
Remember, this was in 2015. Remember, this was an emergency power plant that was meant to have augmented our power supply for 4 years. Remember, there was also the AXA emergency plan. The term, the duration has lapsed, and the government of Ghana, under the present government, has gone further to renew that agreement for a further 10 years. Meaning that there is the need, as we speak, our power supply and demand situation are almost at equilibrium. And in the next 2-3 years, we will need some additional power. And to be fair, the Minister for Energy has categorically stated that we need additional generation. To be fair.
Did we in any way benefit from that agreement before the abrogation?
How do you benefit when it has not come into production? When you terminate the contract, even before it generates, how do you benefit? Remember, one of the major policy objectives of the ministry then was for Ghana to be a major power exporter. Remember that. Currently, we are unable to meet the demand for power from Burkina, Mali, etc. We are supplying them less than what they need, ideally. Let's also put that in mind. So the power sector, especially through the West Africa Power Pool arrangement, has the possibility of being a major export earner for Ghana. We've been exporting power to Togo and Benin. Now with other Burkina Faso, we could do Mali, and we could do more there. So let's keep that in perspective.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
We are Dr. Donko ana yene kasa no na
Maneva na sema PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV de osia dem yopo